The views and opinions expressed by participants in the following public affairs program do not necessarily reflect the position or beliefs of WDEF or its staff.
This is Point of View, celebrating a world record-breaking 62 years of quality public affairs programs from the studios of WDEF News 12, Chattanooga.
A very pleasant good morning to each of you. I'm Booker T. Scruggs, and welcome to Point of View. The month of October is considered to be Disabilities Awareness Month, and that's going to be the focus of our topic on today's program as we come to you through the video facilities on the campus of the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Our guests will be representing the Office of Disability here on the campus of the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. As we mentioned, we will be talking about persons with disabilities, some of the challenges that they face, some of the situations that they find themselves in. And before we talk with our guests from the office here on the campus, we do have an audience of UTC students, and I would like to ask this first young man, if you would just stand up, and ask if you know of someone with a disability.
Yes, I do. My neighbor, all my life I've known him. He's a little mentally handicapped. Some would call him quote unquote retarded, but I mean, I think the only thing he has a problem with is probably schoolwork and maybe talking a little bit, but besides that, he's perfectly fine, I think.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, we're going to be talking about some of the misconceptions that people have in reference to persons with disabilities. He mentioned the word retarded, so we're going to talk a little bit about that too in terms of being politically correct. So let me introduce you to our guest from the official name of the office is Disability Resource Center. Is that correct?
That is correct.
We have, first of all, Byron Klusner, who is the Adoptive Technology Coordinator, and also Martin Davis, Internal Program Specialist. Welcome them to Point of View. Okay, Mr. Klusner, let's start off by talking with you and put us into a focus here in terms of the official definition of a person who is disabled.
Okay, well, the official definition of a person with a disability is that the person must have something that impacts a daily life functioning. So it could be anything from being able to read, being able to walk, being able to hear. So it has to impact the person, and it has to, or the person can be referred to as having a disability. So even though they may not have a disability, but if you refer to them and assume that they have a disability, in essence, you've made them disabled in the eyes of the law. So it does have to impact a daily life functioning in order to be called a disability.
Okay. In terms of students here on the campus at UTC, what seems to be the most prevalent kind of disability?
Well, luckily with the office, we have kind of a multitude of disabilities. Our biggest population of students would be students that have attention deficit, ADHD type of disorder. Learning disabilities is a large number of population, and we're seeing that the student veterans who suffer from traumatic brain injury or post-traumatic stress, that population is rising on our campus also.
Okay.
But we do have students who are blind, students with mobility impairments, students who are deaf and hard of hearing, and then another population that's growing on campus are students who have been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder.
Okay. Mr. Davis,
Yes, sir.
you are working in the office here at UTC, but you also have a disability, right?
Yes.
Okay, what is that disability?
So my disability is called spina bifida, and it is it's a birth defect that basically, in the layman's sense, my spine when I was in my mother's womb failed to formally develop, and so there was a gap in the middle of my spine, and as a result, I have multiple comorbidity disabilities associated with my with myself, neurogenic bowel and bladder, partial paralysis, and I also have hydrocephalus, which is a separate disability, but arises from people with spina bifida.
So let me ask you, what is the primary adjustment that you have to make in terms of just everyday life?
In terms of everyday life, as my self-awareness, since I have to catheterize on my own, I'm not able to go to the bathroom like quote unquote someone who normally might go to the bathroom. I have to monitor that, and so I have to make sure that every 3 hours I go and use the restroom to keep me healthy, to keep my bladder empty, and to make sure that no bacteria builds up and causes infections, UTIs, things like that. Yeah.
Dr. Klesner, this being Awareness Month of persons with disabilities, of what are you trying to make people aware?
Well, we just want to make people aware that even though a student has a disability, we don't look at the disability to define that student. We look at it as a challenge for their academics and accommodations. We just want to promote awareness of just because a student may have mental illness or maybe bipolar, they still can function as a productive citizen of society just like anybody else does.
Let me ask, what are some of the misconceptions that we as the general public might have about persons with a disability, either one or both?
Well, I think that the misconception a lot these days with people with disabilities is that they're feeble, they're sick, and they need more help than anybody else, when actually they're not. They're just as bright as we are. They just have a learning challenge that they have to overcome in order to be more successful at the university. They are not sick, they're not, they're not violent. A lot of times when people think about mental illness, the media portrays mental illness as being a violent population out in the society, and they're not a violent population, they're a misunderstood population.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that, even Dr. Klesner touched on some of the physical disabilities that might be on UTC's campus, and I want to expand on that. With physical disabilities on our campus, it's okay to approach those students. A lot of when I'm in the office and I talk with a lot of students with different disabilities on a daily basis, and the common trend seems to be like people don't want to approach me and learn about my disability. There's this misconception that people don't want to go and talk and learn more and educate themselves, and that's not the case at all. You can do that. You can go ask those questions, and whether you have a disability or not, we should all be asking those questions to better understand each other, to better educate one another, and to help each other, live as a campus community, not just at UTC, but in the greater Chattanooga area, and in our nation as well.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, have you had a situation where a person, an able-bodied person,
Sure.
in all good intentions, tries to help you, but at the same time, maybe in some cases making you uncomfortable?
Yeah, that's with my specific disability, like it's very much invisible, and that's a whole other population that certainly struggles with raising awareness because you can't physically see it. So we're under the notion in our society that if you can't see it, then it's not there. And so that's kind of been my struggle more than someone's being able to know I have a disability and not and try to help me out, try to pity me, which makes me feel really bad. I don't want people to pity me, and I know that our campus population doesn't want that, and able-bodied people don't want to be pitied as well. We just want to be known and raise awareness that this is a real thing, this affects my life, and I want you to be educated about it so you know in the future how to react and how to help appropriately.
Okay. Dr. Klesner, before we go, what impact has the 1990, and I think you said it has been revived or...
Well, it's been
updated?
reauthorized in 2008.
The Americans with Disabilities Act.
That's correct. It was originally developed in 1990, signed into law by President Bush, and it was to define a civil rights law for people with disabilities. And the Reauthorization Act has kind of reopened that to acknowledge all disabilities and not just a limited type of disabilities.
Okay. All right, we're going to be back in just a few moments and continue with Point of View, so stay with us. Our guests on the first portion, Dr. Klesner, and also Martin Davis from the Office of Disabilities here on the campus of the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga.
Thank you for joining us again. I'm one of your hosts, Nayetta Cancel. With me is Laura and Tide. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us today. So many of us are touched by cancer, whether it's ourselves or family members or friends or co-workers. And you work for a great organization, the American Cancer Society.
Yes.
Tell us what they do.
Oh my gosh, what don't they do? We have a mission of curing all cancers, and so We are funding researchers that are making great developments in regards to cancer research. We are funding them in Tennessee. We're funding them all across the nation, and that's exceptionally exciting. But on top of that, we have a lot of things that we're doing in our community with our mission. We have a lot of events. We are providing education to patients, survivors, physicians. I mean, we really are hands on deck when it comes to cancer.
I read a slogan recently that said, "There's nothing like hope."
Yeah.
That came from you guys. What does that mean for your patients?
Oh my gosh. Well, hope is a really big part in the cancer journey. It's actually statistically said that if you have something positive to look forward, that your odds of survival are higher than somebody who might not have hope. So we definitely want to be able to provide hope to everybody, whether that's by providing a wig or giving them hope that their appearance could turn exactly back into what it was before, or encouraging them through our 1-800 number. Hope is a huge part of the cancer journey, so we thrive off of hope.
You know, there are many cancer patients, but there are also many patients that have caregivers and family members that are very affected by the cancer world. What do you do for them?
Well, we honor caregivers just as much as we would a survivor. If you have ever been to one of our Relay for Life events, we have a survivor lap. And that's really exciting, but we also have a caregiver lap, because can you imagine if you had to go through the cancer journey without somebody to drive you to treatment or without somebody to talk to? Caregivers are a crucial part when it comes to the cancer journey, and we want to celebrate everything that they do for all of our survivors.
The truth is that there are many survivors, and we have Tide here, who is actually partnering with you, with the American Cancer Society, and he works for an agency that is very important for the cancer world. Tell us about that.
It is. Guardian Asset Protectors is excited to partner up with American Cancer Society for the Gale of Hope. A lot of people think of life insurance as just offering a benefit as a death benefit. But one of the things that we can offer through a company called National Life Group is living benefits. The living benefits are an acceleration of that death benefit while you're living. So there's 3 different ways that you can use those benefits while you're living. One, if you're diagnosed with a terminal illness, you can actually accelerate the benefits and use them to take your family on a vacation while you're still living. Another is a chronic illness. Say you're in a long-term care situation, you can accelerate the benefits for that. And the other is critical illness, and that's why we partnered up with American Cancer Society, because cancer is one of those critical illnesses where you can use that death benefit for income loss or any other expenses associated with the cancer.
There are particular policies that are just cancer policies, am I correct?
That is correct, yeah. That's not necessarily something we deal with primarily, but yes, it is.
In addition to that, some of the policies actually transfer over to retirement.
That is correct. Yeah, that's another component to what we offer. If you never have a situation where you have to use the living benefits, an index universal life policy will build cash value that can be used as a lifetime income at retirement, and it's a lot of times tax-free as well.
What's the percentage of Americans that do not have a retirement fund?
45% of all Americans.
That's pretty high.
Have saved nothing for retirement. So this is just another great example of how you can use something that can protect your family, but in the end, if you don't need that protection, it's not lost, you can use it in retirement.
Coming back to the cancer policies, how many policies that you have actually get funded because of cancer?
You know, I don't know the exact number.
Okay.
I would say, you know, you're dealing with an insurance, you know, you're trying to protect against the unknown. So there's a lot of different reasons people would get a policy besides cancer, you know, heart attack, ALS, there's all kinds of different living, as far as that critical illness component, there's a lot of different reasons you would get it.
You guys recently filmed a video on a very touching story. I've watched it multiple times. I'm going to share just a snap bit of that story with our viewers today. So let's watch Jessica's story.
It was a crazy day. It was September 26th of 2011. And Mason was 9 months old, and I got a call from the doctor that had done all the tests, and they told me I had infiltrating ductal carcinoma, which to me was a different language. I had no idea what she meant, and so she had to break it down and say, well, Jessica, you have cancer.
I was with her when she received the phone call from the doctor that gave her the results. You know, I knew the conversation wasn't positive, and when she hung up, she looked at me, and as she broke down, she told me she had breast cancer.
You know, I was 30 years old, I was healthy, I had a 9-month-old baby, I was breastfeeding, I had a 2.5-year-old.
You know, you don't expect your child to tell you that they have cancer. You know, it's just not supposed to work that way.
Treatment was the first thing I thought of, how to get rid of this cancer and get it out of my body.
That is quite touching, isn't it?
It is.
How did you two partner? How did both of your agencies partner?
You want to go?
So I actually met Gary Thurman, who Tide works with, at a chamber event in town.
Okay.
There was not a scheduled speaker for that day, or the scheduled speaker didn't show up, so I ended up having to talk about the American Cancer Society, which was an absolute delight, sharing about our mission. And Gary came up to me because he knew the impact that his business was making in regards to cancer, and we just connected and grabbed lunch one day, probably a year ago. It was in October last year.
And this is for the Gala of Hope,
Yes.
which is happening actually in just a few days, isn't it?
A week from today, actually.
Okay.
So October 22nd. It is at Celebration, which is out on Lee Highway. If you know where the old Sam's was, there's ample parking. It is a beautiful area.
How do people get tickets for the event?
We've got a website. I would recommend Googling Chattanooga Gala of Hope, and you can find it through that, or you can go to our website, which is main.acsevents.org/ChatHopeGala.
More importantly, what does the fundraising money go to?
Well, the American Cancer Society's Gala of Hope is the only distinguished event in Chattanooga that's fundraising for all cancers. So our money goes towards research, towards our Hope Lodges, towards our wig room, towards the things that we are making an impact with when it comes to cancer. All cancers. It's not restricted to maybe a specific type of cancer or a specific program, because we want to make an impact on every cancer that's out there.
Thank you. That is pretty impressive that you guys take that huge task at hand. If someone needed to connect with you, do they have to do it through their healthcare provider, or can they contact you directly?
They can contact our office directly, and like I mentioned earlier, we have a 1-800 number that is open 24/7. So you can call Sunday, you can call right now at 6:30 a.m., you can call whenever you need to call, and there's going to be somebody who is there to answer any question. It can be a therapeutic call, it can be a question on oncology. They are there for whatever it is that you might need.
Perfect. Thank you so much,
Oh
Laura.
my gosh,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much,
Thank you very
Ty.
much.
Please stay tuned as Nikki and Donna have a great next segment.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
My name is Nikki Nicholson, and thank you for joining me on this segment of Point of View. Today we will discuss the many challenges that business owners face in the city of Chattanooga. Joining me today is my co-host, Donna Christian Lowe. Please welcome our guest.
Yes, thank you, Nikki. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Thank you, Mr. James McKissick with the City of Chattanooga. Thank you. Bonnie Woodard in purchasing with the City of Chattanooga, and Tim Baker with Baker's Barber College.
How you doing?
Good. Thank you guys for having us today. So as Nikki said, we are talking about the challenges that small business owners face in the City of Chattanooga. So the first thing we want to start out with is, Tim, tell us about your business and how long have you been in business?
Well, I've been open. Well, I'm the owner of Baker's Barber College. I've been open since May of 2015. You know, we offer haircuts, facials, razor shaves, hair coloring, and I'm looking. I actually need more students right now. I have
Okay.
like 6 students right now. I graduated, maybe 7.
Okay.
And all of them are doing good, working in a barbershop now. So
So with that business, we're going to talk about some of those challenges. What has been the number one challenge you faced as a minority business owner in Chattanooga?
one thing that I learned, my business was a startup.
Okay.
And I didn't really know the difference between a business loan and a startup loan.
Okay.
Well, a lot of people think they could just go in a bank and get a loan, but it doesn't work that way.
Right.
But my situation was a little different. I kind of used my own money to get going.
So financing was a challenge.
Definitely.
So Nikki, we've talked about other business challenges. Want to share a couple of those with James and kind of talk about what the challenges we've researched?
Absolutely. So James, first of all, I'd like you to share with the viewers what your position is in the
Okay.
city of Chattanooga.
Well, I work in the city's Office for Multicultural Affairs, and I'm also one of the people that Mayor Burke has asked to staff the Minority Business Task Force. And a lot of the things that Mr. Baker has spoken about are things that we have heard. We recently completed a survey of over 200 minority businesses, and one of the things that popped up was that people do have lots of concerns and issues getting funding and financing. In fact, what we learned is most minority businesses in Chattanooga that we've surveyed, they actually started their businesses with their own personal credit cards or used loans from friends and family.
Well, my question for that is, why do you think that we're still talking about obstacles at this day and time in the city of Chattanooga? Why do you think that minorities are still having issues just to make it as a business?
Well, I will say that across the board, minority or not, that it's very difficult to get startup financing. People want to see that you have invested a lot into your own business, those work hours, sweat hours, and money before they begin to start funding you. But I think that Chattanooga, like every other city in our country, has some systemic racism issues that we have to continue to work to overcome.
So when you talk about systemic racism, now Tim, you and I talked, and Nikki and I, we all talked before the segment. Really, that's kind of what you feel you faced. And but how does someone combat that? So as a business owner, what did you do to say, I am black and I am going to open my business, so I'm going to move forward anyway? What did you do?
I mean, I'm the type of person I don't take no for an answer. If I want something, I'm real ambitious. When I was like 9 years old, I had 10 people in my neighborhood saving cans. And I mean, sometimes you just have to go get it yourself, cause I really don't know anybody giving out money nowhere.
Well, I would say that too, and I know that you've been successful in your endeavor, but I also know there are still a few more challenges that you're facing. So one of those challenges you said is really just continue to get support and grow the business now that you've got the doors open. So I guess how are you doing that now?
Word of mouth, Facebook. I got a commercial right now. And actually, I'm about to add cosmetology to my program. I'm trying to lay the foundation right now, so it won't be long.
Well, I know that we know about this purchasing fair coming up, right?
Yes.
Because we do think that's an opportunity
That
for
is a
anyone,
big
not just a
opportunity.
minority, right? So tell us about the about the purchasing fair coming up.
Right, that's an annual event that we host every year, and this year we are bumping it up a notch, and we're going to be providing a summary of what each major department does. That's something that's useful for potential vendors as a whole. And also, we'll be highlighting the construction projects that the city goes through and how potential subcontractors can connect with our primary contractors. So it
Well,
should
in
be.
your opinion, are people tired of set-aside contracts for minorities?
Are they what? I'm
Are they
sorry.
tired of set-aside contracts for minorities?
What is a set aside? What are you referring to?
Contracts that are meant for minorities to have.
Okay, well, in our structure right now, we aren't able to maintain anything in that specific category. It's not within what we can legally do as far as how we have to compete our contracts.
Well, Bonnie, another question is, we know our viewers are watching today, so I've heard people say, I want to do business with a city, but it's so complicated, there's so much. But I learned there's even a business for beavers. They even need somebody to catch beavers.
Right.
So to me, if there's a service for people catching beavers, anybody can, but it does seem a little complex. So talk to the viewers about the process of coming in and doing business with the city.
Sure. Well, it's mainly a process of just being consistently informed, a vendor introducing themselves to our
And will
division.
vendors be there?
Oh, yes,
Okay,
yes,
that's
yes. Yes, if you, I believe that you all were going to reference the event.
Yes, but go
on
ahead,
this-
tell our
Okay.
viewers. Yes.
Okay, well, the event will be held at the Development Resource Center, which is on Market Street, and it will be held on Thursday, October the 20th from 8:30 to 12:30.
I have a question as well. So how do we involve everyone, the minorities, everyone to know this type of information? Because what I see is there's a disconnect. A disconnect where the minorities are saying, well, I didn't know, I never got this information. And I really would like to know, how can we just make this to where everybody has the same opportunities?
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So one thing that we've really focused on over the past 3 years is to focus on education and outreach. Many people have come to us and said that, especially early on, like, I don't know how to do business with the city, or this seems like an old boys club, how would I know anything about it? So on a really consistent basis, we do a workshop series called Doing Business with the City, where we go to different locations and just teach the process from scratch. The first thing you do is visit our website. We're a public entity, so we have to publish everything that we're looking to purchase. Anyone can look at it, anyone with access to a computer. You need to sign up in our vendor registry. That's something that you do online too. Then, we teach people that we have partnerships throughout the city where if you need help with a bid, we have identified people and organizations who will help you complete the bid. We have people who will help you ask the right questions, get the answers. Bonnie's purchasing department is wonderful. They will lay out previous bids for you so you can see who won it last time, what was their pricing, what did they say.
Transparency.
Exactly. So we've worked really hard, but this is why we do shows like this, because we share it online, on TV, on the radio, but we take every opportunity to make sure that we're getting the information to our citizens.
Well, that is a lot of information. And Tim, what I say to the viewers is come out and see you, right?
Yeah, come out and see.
Yeah, get your hair cut, right? If you're into
$6 haircut.
cosmetology, yes. And we want to thank Bonnie and James for being here with us as well today. This is great information.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I commend all of you.
And
Thank
come
you
to
for
our
coming.
purchasing fair.
On October the 20th,
Yes.
right?
That's
And that website again?
Is just look at Chattanooga.gov.
Chattanooga.gov, it's all there, right?
Awesome.
All right, well, thank you
Thank
guys for
you.
joining us, and thank you for joining us today on The Point of View.
Closed captioning provided by the following.
Funding for this program is brought to you by Barnett & Company, specializing in tax-efficient strategies for the preservation and distribution of family wealth, offering continuous investment management with a focus on long-term strategies. Areas of service include investment, estate, education, and retirement planning. Barnett & Company, the power of compound returns over time. More information can be found on the web at barnettandcompany.com.